Another week means a brand new episode of the Talk and Pop podcast. What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for checking us out. I'm Rob. With me, as always, are Kelly and Brad. And guys, we just continue to ride this emotional roller coaster that is Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Do we ever?
Yeah.
Oh,
do we ever?
This just has fanboy, fangirl, geek nerd nation just all twisted up in like a pretzel. So many people, just so many different takes, so much emotion.
I have to say, the thing that that just popped in my head as I was watching the episode, and then as soon as the episode was over, was, I don't know if anybody, our listeners or you guys ever watched The Godfather Part 3, but there's a line where he goes, "Just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in." And that's exactly what I felt. It was just like everybody's, I don't want to say a bad word here, but everybody's pooping on it. And then this week, it's just like unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about it. But first, as always, we need to hit this week's Talk and Pop news kernels. Last week, we discussed the announcement that Joker 2 was in fact happening, with both Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix returning. Boy, did we get some interesting news about that movie this week. They not only is Lady Gaga, of all people, being tapped to play Harley Quinn in the sequel. It actually makes sense to cast her in that role because Joker 2 is going to be a musical. I want to go first here because Kelly and Brad are on opposite ends of the boxing ring.
Yeah,
when it comes to this movie.
Rob is Sweden in this conversation.
Yes,
everybody.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
I am the middle ground. Okay. So, as you both know, my take on the first Joker movie was I liked it fine. I thought Joaquin Phoenix did an incredible job, and he deserved winning an Academy Award for his performance. However, I always felt that movie was kind of lame duck in the sense that, like, to me, the Joker is so intertwined with Batman. Why do I care about him if there's going to be no payoff with Batman? It's not a true Joker to me if we're not going to get that ultimate Batman climax. It's some psycho guy in clown makeup. Like, there's just such a yin and a yang. They're so connected that it didn't feel right. So they're doing the sequel. It's a musical. I actually don't hate this decision because it just helps me sort of separate it in my brain a little more. Like, if this is just going to be some acid trip movie, then maybe it's like, okay, like it just helps me get my head around the fact that this exists sort of over here on its own more than the first one did. Because if anything, after watching the first one, I was more like, are you kidding me? Like, we just watched that and I'm not going to get some Batman payoff? I don't know if I want Batman sliding into the screen and singing some sort of crooner tune as he fights off.
Some Gene Kelly singing in the rain moment.
Yeah. So it just helps me separate it a little more in my mind. And I don't hate this. Lady Gaga, if you're going to go the musical route, is a great choice. I texted you both yesterday. There's no way Margot Robbie is happy about this. Like, this is her character that she has suffered. She's played that character in 3 separate movies, 2 of them awful movies, and 1 of them okay in the Suicide Squad. So she has suffered through some garbage. And stuck with Warner Brothers to just get sort of, and I know it's a different universe and whatever, but that's her character that she has sort of like built. There's no way she's happy about that.
Well, I think part of it just comes down to, I mean, I don't even think we'd be having this conversation if not for what DC and Warner Brothers have decided, which is, like you just kind of referenced, Rob, was that we have this alternate universe thing coinciding with the other movies, and there's no real through line here. It's just, it does, again, whatever, like, you know, you don't have to do exactly what Disney did, but you know, it just seems a little messy with what's going on. So yeah, I can see her being a little frustrated by this, just because yeah, she's, as of now, I don't know that she's not playing that character as far as the other movies are concerned, and whatever. So I think it's kind of odd. But by the same token, if this wasn't going on, eventually you got to let the reins go a little bit. Like, you know, it's like any of the people who coined a particular character that entered the zeitgeist and everybody loves and whatever. Eventually you got to let the reins go and let somebody else take over. But it is, I think it's mostly weird because she's actively playing the role as far as we know. So I think that's really the crux of it.
Yeah.
Okay. Who wants to go first? We're about to ring the bell here.
Yeah.
So who wants to go first, Kelly or Brad?
Kelly, I tip my cap to you. Go ahead.
All
Brad
right.
is going to let Kelly throw the first punch here.
I mean, you're really building this up here. No. So I said last week that I had issues with that first movie. My issues were not Joaquin Phoenix's acting performance.
Mhm.
And I certainly don't begrudge Lady Gaga. I've been to 2 of her concerts. You know, I've listened to her albums. Like, you know, call me a little monster, if you will. Like, I'm cool with Joaquin and Stephanie here. But one, I said it last week, that first movie just icked me out. And so maybe personal preference, it just felt icky to me. Like, at the end, it was really glorifying this incel dude. And the whole movie ends with a bunch of people applauding a guy for shooting someone in the head. Like, I don't know. It icked me out. And I'm not someone who gets icked out easily, honestly. And then I was thinking about it and I was like, why is this sequel rubbing me the wrong way so much? Because I am not excited about this. I think it's so weird. And not in a good way. And I think I actually have boiled it down to the fact that I hate that they're using the Joker IP. If this was like a Man Who Laughs type story, and we weren't kind of simultaneously having it in the Batman universe, I think I'd be able to take it in a little easier. But to me, it's almost like they're tricking people into coming to the theater with the banner of Joker and then giving them this really weird, what I said, this is my view, Brad, before you pull out your gauntlets.
I'm not gonna yell at you or anything.
It is I think it's a stupid movie that's posturing as a smarter movie. And I think that if it wasn't called Joker and if it wasn't Joaquin, I think this movie would be a meme. Like, I think
it would just be another like indie flick that wouldn't have got the praise.
So yeah, I don't know. I just can't get excited about this. I do think it's like, I'll give them that it's interesting. It's an interesting thing to do. It's a unique approach, but I just am not into watching this self-indulgent exercise of, you know, we did this whole like, you know, him doing Tai Chi in the bathroom and that, you know, for some reason makes it a great movie. So now we're going to add singing.
Oh, God.
I just don't, this isn't for me. It's not for me, guys.
Okay.
I can just quickly before you go, Brad, because I am Switzerland here. Kelly, I can relate to you like struggling with it being set in like a Batman world. That was my issue with the first one as well. Like
then we have to take a minute to acknowledge Thomas Wayne. Like,
yes, I'm waiting for the Cape Crusader and he's never coming. That is what I struggle with. Brad, over to you.
Okay, well, I mean, like, I fundamentally disagree. And just so everyone is aware, me and Kelly have been talking about this, and Rob, obviously,
literally since it came out,
since the movie came out, which was what, 2019, I believe.
Yeah.
I mean, I disagree on everything. And again, It's not, you're entitled to your opinion for sure. Like that. And like, I've also heard other people say things along the line of what you were saying. It's not like you're some random person like that's just got this strange belief in the movie and everybody else is over here. There are people that just didn't enjoy it for that. I think part of it was the fact that it was so I guess realistic in the sense of like what you said. Like there was definitely tones taken from stuff that is going on in the real world. And when you kind of marry uh like a beloved character from what is seemingly a fantasy based cartoon or comic book, and then you bring it like very real world, it's borderline theater of the absurd where you just feel like uncomfortable. And like, so for instance, like theater of the absurd kind of alludes itself to, you're watching somebody get murdered, but there's like a happy children's song playing. Like it's very contrast. I think that was, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but I'm wondering if that's part of it. But is that part of it?
Well, no, it's
Okay, I
that.
don't need the yeah.
Yeah, it's just that it's so fundamentally different than what we know of the Joker character historically. So there is a bit of a mental leap that I have to make there. Like the Joker is a smart guy. Arthur Fleck is not a smart guy. So there's like a little bit of that where I'm like, this just isn't the Joker I know. And then I have to go. So then I have to go along with, okay, so here's their new interpretation, which cool, let's do that. And I just don't like what they did. I just don't like that we've glorified someone who like just goes on a murder spree because people are mean to them. I just think that's a gross story to tell. So that's just
Right,
me.
but I do think that that's part of it though. Like I mean, not every movie or what have you needs to be, traditional Joker or traditional storytelling in this regard or the other. So for me, again, somebody who like highly enjoyed the movie, thought it was brilliant, from the standpoint of it being like an unreliable narrator to the point where it's supposed to be not even necessarily glorifying it in the true sense of, if you just took it on its surface level of saying like, it's glorifying it because there was no real understanding of what was going on in the movie, and it was just kind of a one note, like we're just celebrating this criminal for doing these terrible things. But the whole thing was getting into the psyche of someone who is, as a character, always been insane. And it was kind of like a stepping through the looking glass into somebody who has these mental, clearly, in all of the Batman lore or whatever, Joker lore, that he is mentally disturbed. Nobody does these things. And so from the standpoint of seeing how he's twisting the world in his own mind to fit himself into this narrative of him being like almost a hero to people, and getting his one-upmanship on people and connecting himself to, in a weird way, to Bruce Wayne and the Wayne's family and Batman, and creating this whole narrative in his head. I don't think you're supposed to be taking it literally as a story, like this is actually happening, because that's why I think there were also nods to like Heath Ledger in the back of the cop car. I think that's why there were nods to like all of these little, things. And it's kind of like, is this real? Is this not? Is there's lots of movies that deal with that unreliable narrator because you're seeing it through his eyes. It doesn't make it true. And I think that's what's interesting. And you can kind of go like, well, what the hell was going on? And that's why I actually, on Rob's point, as far as making the sequel into a musical, I think it very much lends itself to what I'm saying, which is like,
Just go all
this
the
is
way.
just an acid
Yeah.
trip.
Yeah,
This is
just go all the
shit-
way.
This is just shit that's going on in his head, and you're stepping inside his cranium, for a lack of a better word, to kind of see what this circus is that's going on in his head. And I think it just lends itself to a very like interesting story that I don't think we've ever seen, and to do it with a character that I think does have a huge fan base and a following, I thought was brilliant in my mind. I think if you were to do this with somebody that's just a random character, it wouldn't come across. People wouldn't even necessarily understand the narrative of it being a unreliable narrator. It could just be, you just take it at face value. But the fact that it is a character that we know and understand, and what's going on in his head, and even the connections that we now know from comic books and everything else, that he doesn't really have these connections with the Waynes, it just, I thought, lent itself to such like an interesting story. So I love the movie, and I do think that the musical aspect of it is a fascinating jump.
Three quick points. One, when you go so far down this like dark direction and take such liberties with the character and the story, you're gonna get what's happening here, which is some people like it, some people don't.
Yeah.
Like I can appreciate it for what it is, but I can also see Kelly's point and agree with her in that like this isn't my Joker.
100%.
And I'm missing the Batman foil. Like, for instance, we're going to talk about Obi-Wan Kenobi in a second. They are pushing Vader hard. Like, they're getting him over hard as like a sinister son of a bitch in this show. And it works because by doing that, he's challenging our hero. And like, that's what the Joker movie is missing for me, in that like, okay, this guy's completely insane and he's murdering people left and right and he's becoming like the clown prince of crime. But it's like, but that's just part of the story. I want the other part of the story where he meets his foe, the yin to his yang, and we're not going to get it. So just leading me into my third point, they're going to go the musical route. Guys, this is either going to be fantastic or this is going to be bloody awful. There's no in between. Like, you're not going to leave this and go, oh, that was okay. I think you're going to leave it and go, wow, they went really artsy with that and it really worked. Or you're going to leave and go, what the hell did I just watch?
I have no doubt that you're going to leave that movie saying like, wow, the performances. Like, there's no, like, I maintain that. I think for me to enjoy this second one, because it's clear I didn't enjoy the first one. Brad, you make some compelling arguments. You still didn't win me over though. But for the second one, I think what would help me is, for me in the first one, the reasoning behind his madness didn't sell me. Like, just that, you know, people were being mean and stole his sign. Like, I that just for me didn't feel, that story didn't come across for me. Maybe I was missing some nuances. Maybe I was missing some pieces. So I hope that there's just maybe a bit more of a clearer, because we're obviously probably going to see like Harley's origin. I want to see more of like the psychological manipulation that we've known the Joker to sort of put on her.
I think you
Harley
will.
and Quinzel.
Yeah,
I think you will. I think you will get a deeper dive into some of the psychological aspects of, because I think that was the whole basis of the original movie anyways, was that it was supposed to be this like real deep cut into the psyche of somebody who is unwell. And now you're going to see that manipulation spill over and kind of have that story
and
told.
They're going to sing while they do it.
But I think that it's like, but again, I think I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but I think putting it in the category of a theater of the absurd is the best way to categorize it, just because it is, again, at
the theater of the absurd.
It's bizarre. It's freaking weird to step into the mind because you can't actually do it. And to see that you're going to do it in a way that contrasts some of these clearly creepy things I think they're going to get into, exactly to your point, Kelly, which was like the relation between Joker and Harley Quinn. I think you're going to see that there's going to be some like really uncomfortable, weird moments where, yeah, maybe he is singing while he's doing some mental gymnastics on her or whatever. And I think it's going to make you feel, like you said, icky. But I think that's the point.
Yeah. All right, we got to move on here. We got tons of time to talk about Joker 2 and tons of time for me to lament how WB just didn't stroke Joaquin a check and cross him over with Pattinson, and instead we got to live with this bloody stupid Barry Keoghan version. Anyway,
you give him some time. Coming up.
No, dude, it's right there on a silver platter. It was right there. And he's so much older. Who cares? It's perfect. You could have had your own unique story. It was right there. Just stroke Joaquin the check. Make a Todd Phillips an EP. Call it a day. Nope. Can't do it. We're going to have this ridiculous Barry Keoghan. Anyways, moving on to a much lighter note, our final news kernel, Spider-Man No Way Home, the more fun stuff version swings into movie theaters in the US and Canada on September 2nd. They are adding 15 more minutes of footage of Toby and Andrew footage. They're just going to take the towel and just squeeze every last dollar out of it just milk this Spider-Man.
We need
now.
it. Yeah.
We can just get, and honestly, It's cool. I think you're gonna get a lot of. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know if I'm gonna go to the movie theater
I'm
to
not
see
gonna
this.
go.
Yeah,
I'm not
like,
gonna go. It's a
no.
it's a little
It feels like-
shameless to me.
Yeah, it feels like a money grab.
And I'm not sure. I mean, it sounds like I'm just bringing the whole vibe of the episode down, but like I just like you know what? It's cute and. You know, if it's out on a special feature or on YouTube,
I want to see it.
Absolutely, I want to see it. But am I going to pay to see it again?
Guys,
no.
Let's call this what it is. This is a bunch of suits sitting around a table at Disney who, instead of releasing a director's cut, are going, let's throw it back in the theater and see how much money we can squeeze out of this, instead of just putting out like a Blu-ray director's cut or something.
I am wondering if this has something to do, because Disney did do something similar with Endgame, where they were so close to beating that or getting that number one spot of all time in terms of box office revenue. I'm wondering if it has something to do with that. I mean, beyond the fact that it's just clearly they're going to make more money by doing this. I just think it's funny because based on conversations we've had in the past on this podcast about, you know, a lot of these streaming services are kind of starved for new content. And I think that's coming across. The fact that you wouldn't make this like a big premiere thing.
So true. Yeah. Why are you not putting this on Disney Plus and getting
this is a layup?
Clearly, guys, the piggy bank from the movie theater is a bigger piggy bank than the Disney Plus one.
It always has been.
The suits around the table are going, let's go for the big piggy bank. So really, like, cool. I'll definitely watch it when it becomes available to me to watch in my home. I don't know if I'm going to go to the theater to see it.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
All right, guys. Moving on.
Well, wait.
Okay.
Are we not going to actually mention that there was a amazing photo posted on Instagram today of Ryan Gosling as Ken?
And just so, if you were confused who that was, just look at the top of his undies and it'll tell you exactly who it is.
His Calvin Kens.
Yes. I like that.
Yeah.
Here's what I'll say about this, Kelly. I do enjoy that it literally looks like they're standing in like a Barbie
Playhouse. It's
Barbie's dream world. Yeah.
It's the funniest thing I've ever seen.
Same.
I'm so excited. Like I think we said on the last episode that this is coming out at the same time as the next Christopher Nolan movie. And like, honestly,
Oppenheimer. Yep.
This has my ticket first, actually.
Wow.
Okay. I'm going to see Barbie first. I am. Maybe it's because I'm a Barbie girl in a Barbie world. I don't know. But thank you.
Very good.
Thank you. But I also did hear a rumor that so we've got Simu Liu in this movie. We've got another great cast. It's escaping me at the moment, but the cast is amazing. Yeah, the cast is amazing. Like, that's all I'm saying. And as I understand it, that I heard a rumor that Simu Liu is also Ken. That we're gonna go through Kens of different
of Yorn.
Yeah, and I think Issa Rae is also Barbie. They've got they're doing these kind of multiverse versions of Barbie and Ken. And
guys, I read a quote from Simu Liu where he said that his agent told him that he would bet his career on the Barbie script.
It's so bizarre. I was talking about this with my significant other right before the podcast, because obviously the pictures just came out today, and I can't make up my mind about what this is. Clearly there is some factor that we are not privy to at this point.
So I do just want to validate that.
Go ahead.
Search cast of Barbie. Simu Liu is listed as another Ken.
That's hilarious. There you go. Nice. There you go. Perfect.
Nice.
So, okay. So because we're talking about this now, so we might as well dive into this a little bit. I can't make up my mind if this is going to be somewhere along the lines of, how we've because everybody seems to be going gaga over this script and the movie, and clearly about the amount of people that are involved in this alone kind of tells you that there's something to this. And especially in today's day and age of kind of being a little trepidatious about making new kinds of movies and these kinds of things, it seems crazy that there's this many people all in on what I would think would just be like a kid's movie. And but it almost I can't make up my mind if this looks like like a 90s Flintstones kind of situation.
No way, no
or
way.
if it's just like a
No.
pure parody, and it's just gonna be almost like a weird Edward Scissorhands 90s, like it's supposed to be tongue-in-cheek the whole time. I don't know. I can't. I'm highly intrigued.
I'm gonna venture to say with Greta Gerwig directing, this is gonna be like oddly profound while also being like silly.
Ludicrous,
like,
yes.
Yeah, it's gonna be so silly. I think it's gonna be silly like in a way that's kind of like the Lego movie, where it's like
Right.
they have their world, but then there's maybe like the world of the people who are playing with them. Like I think it might be that element, because when I think because when I think Will Ferrell, not to say that they've cast him for this reason, but like that's who he was in the Lego movie. Like he came in and he was like playing with his world of Lego. So I'm like, I wonder if there's going to be that. This movie looks so freaking cute, and I've only seen pictures, and I'm like, and also the last thing I'll say, like I'm glowing. The last thing that I'll say is I can't believe it's 2022 and we've never had a Barbie movie.
Yeah, it does seem odd when you think about it, like how they've made everything else.
Now we're just in that day and age now where like any sort of IP is going to get greenlit to get made to make money. Okay, guys, we got to move on here. We spent way too much time in the news kernels. We got to talk about the main event here. Okay, so after episode 4 of Obi-Wan Kenobi, it was an emotional roller coaster. People were upset, Kelly and I included. Brad, we didn't talk to you last week. We got like all kinds of people on social media commenting, and like polar opposites, right? Like Kelly and I got roasted on our TikTok for being too negative. We had other people like the other side was like, oh, I guess you don't like storytelling. I guess you're just impatient. You got to wait. You got to let the story play out. And it's like,
give me a break. We've watched almost 3 hours of this show.
I would like to come back to what I said last week. I would like to come back to what I said last week. Give the people what we want. And that is what happened in episode 5. And that is why everyone is glowing about episodes 3 and 5.
Minds.
Because this show was billed as an extension of the prequels, not the bitter Inquisitor and baby Leia. And this week, what do we get? We get the most badass Vader sequences you've ever seen in your life.
Probably,
we get a throwback straight out of the greatest movie ever made, Attack of the Clones. Like where they
are you aware of Yoda?
Yoda. You're familiar with Yoda? It's straight up like a training sequence from Attack of the Clones. Like Hayden Christensen is Attack of the Clones. Hayden Christensen. Obi-Wan Kenobi has BG's mullet. Like it looks.
I need to interrupt just for a second because the episode literally starts with a little baby ponytail, and I instantly just went.
You're like, I know who that is.
Oh, yeah. There was no way it was anybody else. I saw that little baby ponytail at the back and a braid, and I just knew what was going on.
The youngling braid, the Padawan braid. Yeah,
yes,
Padawan braid. Kelly, you're bursting at the seams.
I have so much to say. So much to say.
Yeah.
So first of all, this episode felt like it was written and directed by a completely different staff than the rest of this show.
Yeah.
Like, not only from the perspective of like, give the people what they want. Like you said, the dialogue was better. Just the way that the world felt more real in this episode.
The stakes. We always talk about the stakes. You can tell that
this is where the budget went into this episode. Every other episode up until this point, which some of them have had, like end of episode 3 was great. We've had some glimmers of other stuff, but the writing has felt like a high school drama project that was like an A+ high school drama project. Like, whereas this actually felt like
It felt like an extension of the prequels. It felt like episode, it felt
which
like
is what we wanted.
Yes.
To Revenge of the Sith.
And
Brad, it's not what we wanted. It's what they promoted.
Well, both. Yes.
The other thing that I'll say is we got such a glimmer of Hayden Christensen channeling the conflicted, disturbed, complicated Anakin Skywalker that we never have seen in live action before. Like,
at this degree, yeah, I agree.
He, during the press tour, said that he went back and watched the Clone Wars to really like get how he was going to come back, and it came across in this episode. And it is a damn shame that we are at episode 5.
Yep.
And we have not been sprinkling through. You could have told the same story, but just sprinkle in these flashbacks between Hayden and Ewan to help us as the audience really get into, like,
I agree.
Why does this character feel so betrayed?
Yep.
And reflect what it is that we're seeing in the present with how that speaks to the past and what is motivating Vader and why is this? Because honestly, all the Reva stuff here, because we've complained that this has become too much of a third sister show.
Yeah.
Well, it worked for me in this episode. I thought she was fantastic.
The payoff with her was great. The payoff
was fantastic.
Yeah.
But I'm so frustrated that this episode was amazing. And all they needed to do was to sprinkle more of baby ponytail Anakin throughout the rest of this to really have everyone say that this is a fantastic show.
Yeah.
And quickly here, Brad, to all the people who are like, oh, I guess you don't like long, like storytelling and you're impatient. It's like, no.
I'm the first one who always says, don't rush it. Don't rush the story. I would rather we talked about this on this podcast.
Yes.
Just like, if you can do it, like, if you want to spread it out to tell a more fulfilled story,
great,
do it. Extend those episodes from 6, 7 to 10 to 12 or do whatever, but don't. Anyway, we'll get into it. I don't want to talk too far ahead.
No, it's just honestly, man, we can recap. I'm not going to do the full episode recap. We're going to recap certain parts of it, but it's like we have to have a holistic conversation here because Star Wars fandom was like, it was split down the middle after episode 4. And Kelly's point is so well made in that, like, we've wasted so much time. There's been so much time wasted with things that we didn't necessarily. We didn't need to spend so much time building up Reva and little Leia. With all we've wanted to see, this is all this show needed to be. Obi-Wan Kenobi continuing his journey. Flashbacks of Anakin and Obi-Wan, which
that's all you needed to add.
Point to Vader chasing after him and seeing badass Vader, which we get. That's all anyone wants. And if you want to have these sort of like external side characters like Reva, like Leia, great, but they shouldn't be focal points of the story, and thus far they have been, and that's
almost more so than the other characters.
That's my issue, is that they've taken the majority. So it's funny because we've three of us have ranted about this before in our, and I would love to sit down with someone at Disney to understand it, because Disney's not running short on cash flow. So I don't understand, like, as much as you're saying, Rob, we've wasted time. Yes, certainly. But you could also argue the other point of like, or we could have just spent a bit more time. It's a TV show and you can have it be 36 minutes.
Point.
You can have it be 36 minutes instead of 32 and spend 4 more minutes in each episode giving us a tidbit about the dynamic that existed between these two characters.
Build it up.
And then, like, we're clearly coming to the payoff, because what was set up in this episode is that Anakin's inability to put aside his hunger for winning and pride is what makes him a Padawan. And so we're going to end the show with him still a Padawan.
I told you they'd retcon that. I knew it.
Which then we meet again in the future, and he acknowledges that he was still
When I left you, I was but the learner. Now I am the master.
Yes, such
Yes. See, that's all. So we
nailed it.
Kelly, to your point, I flagged Stranger Things last week. Every single one of those episodes is like 90 minutes. And has anybody complained about that?
No, good storytelling.
Because everybody gets their time. Yes.
Yeah, because then the payoff in the finale was just like, oh my God. Like, because
everyone's developed. Yes.
Correct. And you spend enough time with all the characters and like but not heavy handed. Like it just kind of flows perfectly. This was just kind of and again, we just to circle back just for a second, because we did talk about this even before the show aired, the first episode or the first 2 episodes on the premiere date. We talked about the fact that we were concerned about this being a show or should it have been a movie. And I do think, even though the show has had the ability to tell a more interesting story, it's almost like there was maybe too many cooks in the kitchen or something, and they tried to do too much. And then all of a sudden somebody goes, yeah, well, it can only be 7 episodes. And then, but now they're like, well, but we have all these great things we want to do in this short show. So then what happens is something that could have just either been a movie or an extended television show is now a shortened version or a lengthened version of either. So either a lengthened version of a movie or a shortened version of a show. So now you get this you're kind of caught in the middle. So for me, it's just so obvious that and this happens on shows sometimes, but usually at like some later junction, and that it's like, maybe you start saying like, well, this was a little bit of filler. This might set up something down the road, but we've done X, Y, Z up until this point. So who cares? But there's just seemed to be so much filler, for lack of a better word, and it really didn't need to be. I think you could have gotten the third sister across. I think you could have gotten a lot of these characters across.
She's a good enough actress. Like the way that
she just showed it. The
way that she comes in, and not just in this episode, some of the other ones, like the way that she comes in with such like rage. It's like, okay, I'm clearly understanding that there's something more than you just being like an angry inquisitor here, right?
Correct.
Like,
well, and they showed the younglings on Order 66 at the beginning of the show.
And everybody immediately got it.
Yes.
Everybody on the internet immediately knew what was going to happen. So why did we have to spend 4 episodes telling people what they already knew and wasting Hayden Christensen?
I'll say this, not to go completely off down a different road, because I want us to stay here, but by the same token, I know that we have talked about that we want to see other stories. We know that Taika Waititi's doing his own other thing, and it's going to be sans everybody else. I think the lore of Vader has now been built up in such a way that it's like,
yes,
can we not greenlight something for Hayden and just go, listen, let's just do a between here and here and show that struggle and show that right up until that showdown on the Death Star. I would be so down.
Dude, that's another Vader stuff. The Vader stuff in this episode is unbelievable.
Oh, like, it's so good.
They are he is the personification of evil in this show. Like he is just incredible. He's a ruthless Sith Lord. It's amazing.
Which is what he's supposed to be, yeah.
We just get such awesome like geek stuff in this. Like he pulls the ship down with the Force, and then he fights Reva. And for the first part of it, he's not using a lightsaber. He's just pushing her away.
And when he takes the two and he just breaks it and he hands it to her and he's like, "Let's go! Like let's go!"
Yeah, and he's just so much more powerful than her. Oh yeah, it's
such a shame that
Kelly. We touched on this last week, and I want to hit on it again here. The voice work that they're doing by making Hayden Christensen sound like James Earl Jones, but like Empire Strikes Back James Earl Jones is oh my God. This is the best Vader has ever sounded in this show. It's
but you can tell the marrying of the two voices, because there was also like, again, a lot of people dumped on like what Hayden Christensen was asked to do as his performance at the time when the original prequels came out and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But
Is Padme?
Yeah, but it
Is
makes
she safe?
but it makes sense.
No.
I don't care. I still love that. The thing for me was always just that it made sense for the pacing in which Vader always spoke. If you actually listen to his pacing in his way he is as Anakin, it actually makes sense. But again, all this is easy to see 2020 vision now that we're again, and you're really getting that full circle thing with the fact that they've married James Earl Jones and Hayden Christensen's voice, and you're getting like the perfect balance.
It's amazing.
They brought balance to the Force, if you will.
God, it's so good. Anything else you
Incredible.
want to touch on with this episode? I mean, like we're getting. First of all, I asked you guys last week. I asked Kelly last week. Is our stormtroopers the dumbest henchmen of all time? We got our answer this week. We've got Reva and Obi-Wan standing there whispering to each other when Obi-Wan's on his knees, and all the stormtroopers are just like,
Yeah,
Check
I'm just going to
out.
ignore this.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
This looks normal.
Well,
Not
I will
one
say
of them is suspicious.
no. I
No.
will say this. Excuse me, but this has more to do with, I think, the overall writing in the show. Again, clearly there was some other things going on. I actually have been in probably one of the camps that's been a little bit more mild about this. I haven't been like
Brad, you've been a little bit more positive than the average person about
No, I
something.
was gonna say that doesn't sound like you.
That's
listen.
no.
I've had my qualms. I think I've been making some of them fairly clear.
You have. No, you have. You have.
Yeah.
You have.
But my thing has always just been like, I try to find the things within all of it that is kind of like, okay, I like this, I don't like this, what happened, blah, blah. But my thing definitely that I remember saying to you, which was after episode 3, you know, we were all on a high, and I was saying, and we were all kind of saying, like, you know, it's great, like, blah, blah, blah. There were some inconsistencies for me, just as far as like, you know, that great scene where Vader is dragging Obi-Wan through the fire, and it's like, oh my God. And you saw him like break necks and all these kinds of things. And, you know, we see that scene where, you know, the rescue of Obi-Wan essentially goes down and the flames go up, and all of a sudden Vader just essentially just doesn't do anything.
Well, I mean,
and
he's had a bad encounter with fire before.
but like, again, if that's what they were going for, it wasn't clear. And I'm almost wondering, like, that I would have actually
down.
But
He
see,
doesn't like fire.
But see, I actually would have bought that. Like, if when that happened, they kind of did like a cool flash that he was kind of like having a PTSD moment, and that's how Obi-Wan got away.
And seeing the
But, like,
flames in the
yeah, like-
eyes of the mask.
This
But,
is
like,
where I was going.
Yes, like that is what this show has been missing all along. You could have told, maybe get rid of the like stupid hokey like flea chase scene in the beginning. That needs to go. In the first episode.
That needs
That's
to go. Sorry,
whoa.
Flea. Put Flea in a different place
Whoa.
where we
Get
want
rid
him
of
in.
that.
We want him in there, but just
Get rid of that.
Do something.
But
different.
everything
Yeah.
else, like I have my issues with this show, but I truly believe, without trying to like pretend like I know how to write a television show, that you could have kept this largely the same as long as you took a few moments to do exactly what you just said, Brad. Like, remind us why, like, that would be a sensitive
Do you know
thing
how-
for Vader.
Do you know the
Remind
impact-
us about Ewan's time spent with Anakin and like the failure that weighs on this man who likely has PTSD. Like, come on. So to all the haters who were saying that Rob and I don't like value storytelling, no. We want more storytelling. We want better storytelling. We want all the pieces that bring this to life.
Correct. And I agree. I'm with you guys, because that's
And
what
we
I'm saying. Like,
want-
and
What you promised us,
yeah.
which was
Yeah.
Vader and Obi-Wan and an extension of this dynamic. I don't want Leia. And the only thing about this episode,
I don't even mind
and this,
Leia being in it.
guys, this is just a personal thing. This is personal. A lot of people aren't gonna agree with me on this, and it makes sense. This is just purely personal preference. The episode ends with a shot of Luke Skywalker, and I'm just like, more Skywalkers. Like,
But
can
again,
we just
I will say, for the sake of the telling of this episode, I liked it, because I think it set up.
yes, it makes
Again-
it makes sense. Like,
No,
I
it
said,
does.
It's just my personal preference. I'm just so sick of the word Skywalker.
I know, but I think it just set up the stakes for the next episode being like, oh snap, like what's gonna happen here? But I think for me, like I said, it's just this will sound a little nitpicky, and it's not that because again, it's Star Wars. I mean, the general idea alone, you have to suspend, disbelief a little bit. But I think it's more just the little inconsistencies, like why at one point he doesn't use the force or whatever to do certain things, and then all of a sudden in this episode he's literally hauling a ship, which was sick. I'm not trying to take anything away from it. If anything, it was like, yeah, that's what we want. But then why wasn't he doing it over here? Like this kind of level, like it just seems like it doesn't really match up. And I don't know, again, like I said, this might be coming off a little nitpicky. I'm not trying to. It's just more that it's kind of like there's some inconsistencies and some rumors about writers not necessarily doing their homework before this whole thing came out, which I didn't like hearing. But whether that's true or not, hopefully it's not. But regardless, I just think that there's like a little bit of, again, what I alluded to before, which is too many cooks in the kitchen. I think it's quite clear that that's kind of what's going on here. And it was like, we have all these great ideas and we want to tell all these stories, but we're going to give you this much time to tell it. And it's like, I would have preferred you told this story that we were promised, like you said, and introduce us to these other characters perhaps. And hey, again, you're struggling for content or whatever and subscriptions, spin-off.
Yeah, last thing,
like,
and let's end on that note.
Wait,
the
I do
time
have to
is
ask
now.
you guys. I do have to ask you one question. I'm sorry, Rob,
Okay.
to ruin your
No problem. I was just gonna say the time is now to greenlight the Vader project. Like
Certainly.
whether that's a movie or a show or whatever. Give us
movie.
Yeah, just a pure Vader story. Just
correct.
Yeah. Sorry, my question was, how do you think they patched up the Grand Inquisitor?
Apparently his species has, you guys know I love to come on here and give credit to the Reddit nerds. I saw
they deserve it.
I've been seeing for weeks that his species has 2 stomachs. And I've also been seeing for weeks, also apparently getting stabbed through your body by a lightsaber doesn't kill you, as we saw with Reva in this episode as well. Like she gets like she just crawls over and looks at the
just a little. I gotta go for a little soak in the bacta tank. It'll bring
So are we now downgrading? Are we now downgrading the power of a lightsaber?
No, Kelly's right. Just hop in the bacta tank and you're good.
It'll bring you back to life.
Yeah, true. Won't grow back limbs though.
No,
will not. It is the future, and we have a lot of technology. Can't grow back a limb.
You guys want to hear something? You guys want to hear something that is going to blow your mind?
Yes, always.
I read a rumor on Reddit this week that the Grand Inquisitor could be Snoke.
Stop.
Yeah. Think about it. Think about it.
I want to pretend like think about it, because that means that we have to acknowledge that those movies exist, and I don't want to do that.
The first one was good. The Force Awakens was great.
Snoke.
Oh man, I don't want that. Not everything has to be an M. Night Shyamalan twist.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
No, guys, I saw that and I had the same reaction you guys just had. I had the same reaction you guys just had, and so I thought I would table it because I was like, oh no.
Oh god.
All right, we have 1 episode left. I think we're gonna get some epic showdown between Vader and Obi-Wan, probably a good little lightsaber duel. And I
want to say
we're also gonna get the full. I don't think Reva's dead. We're gonna get the full babyface turn for Reva, and she's gonna show up with a new color lightsaber.
We've got one last persisting question, other than again what we now have established, which is what the turn for a phrase was with Obi-Wan and Darth on the Death Star in A New Hope, and that's been cleared up, which again I'm stoked. I thought that was such great writing. But how do we figure out this decision that Leia has just had this whole relationship with Kenobi? Is there going to be some kind of force mind wipe?
Yeah,
I think that's the only way.
Some sort of memory wipe or whatever.
It has to be.
Yeah.
It has to be. Like she's R2D2,
I don't know.
and C3PO and we're just gonna flip a switch and she just doesn't remember anybody.
I also saw someone pointed out that Alec Guinness in the New Hope, and I actually watched A New Hope last week. He literally looks at Luke and goes, "I haven't heard the name Obi-Wan since before you were born." And
yes.
we're like,
oh my God. There's so much stuff in A New Hope that makes no sense. Like it makes zero sense.
Unless, like I said, you just want to play the card of he's just keeping up this, undercover story that he's had to live with, and now he's gotta just.
Now he's just a kooky old man.
Yeah,
I think that's what the writers are banking on, is that we just go, it's fine.
Man, you just live. You live amongst. You live amongst the Tusken Raiders for too long. You're in that Tatooine sun. You go a little nutty. Yeah, you go a little nuts. Yeah,
too much living on blue milk. That's it.
Too much blue milk.
Yeah, way too much blue milk.
Just dairy overload.
He's lactose intolerant.
He's just making those weird bags of food that he ate in the first episode.
Bags of food and a little sliver
if those go bad. Those go bad. That can make you
a little sliver of tuna. Just to give
bad,
a little flavor.
That can mess your mind up.
Don't get it twisted.
Space tuna.
Yeah.
Space tuna. All right. I think we need to get out of here on space.
Yeah, we're talking about tuna.
Thanks so much for checking us out this week, everyone. If you like what you see, hit that like and subscribe button below. Once again, cheers to all our new subscribers. Our Top Gun Maverick review is still soaring to new heights. Love it. Keep the comments coming. Amazing engagement on that video.
We want to hear from you. Comment below.
Let's have engagement on this video.
Yes,
subscribe, hit that bell. You're going to get all of the notifications for when we do these funny reviews about space tuna. That's what you want.
Also,
I know that's why you're here.
Social media handles are at the top of the screen. And we'll see you guys next week to chat the finale of Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Ooh, let's go.